this started in uh just this I think it February time frame. I went in because the after the clutch in the transmission literally blew up when after that was replaced, and I went and got it. Now, other things were happening, but it was mostly electrical. So fast forward, basically, I went in and I said, I got to a point where the Jeep would be driving, and then out of nowhere, the steering wheel would lock up, so I couldn't, turn or get off the road or anything like that. All the mechanical stuff, like recalls and everything, were done to it. Were now failing again, I guess, basically. So when I brought it back to Hendrix Chrysler, which is where I bought the Jeep from, um, you know, they s- they said there's no Jeep, or sorry, there's no recall system or whatever. And it got frustrating to do all the research and kind of wanted I was trying to like help the situation so they weren't wasting time and effort on, you know, what needs to be done. And then it got to a point and then it broke down. So June 8th is when it finally broke down. It was about a block or so from the dealership originally. And because of and I had it towed there. About 2 days, 3 days go by, and I had heard from I think it was Chrysler Customer Service or Jeep Cares. I can't, one of those two. I have the email or whatever, but they kept responding back to me that that the dealership was saying my Jeep wasn't there. When I finally got somebody to answer my call, one of the staff in service department said that they're refusing to do any work to my Jeep, and that I need to have it towed somewhere else. And I said that, of course I asked why. Like, that doesn't, I bought it from you guys. This is what needs to happen. Uh, and she said that because of a survey that I had to do, like, about 2 weeks prior to this, for the oil change that they did, I was truthful. Before I did it, they said, "We really need you to answer everything on a positive, higher note, no matter what. Like, we need all good scores." But nobody said that anything like, I didn't know what would happen, right? I didn't even ask. So when I did, I was just truthful, and I hadn't heard anything back from them. So few days later, or whatever it was, they said, because of that, that's why they were refusing to service to me, because I gave them a bad score. Um, that it Whether true or not, they were denied me service. And so I guess they can do that. Uh, but my Jeep is broke down. It's inoperable. So it was still sitting there. And I kept asking for, the managers and somebody else, that can help me out with this situation. Uh, I think it was that day or the next day or so, I got a hold of the department manager that they work that they're meant. Well, he was very, very audibly very irritated, very like huffing and puffing, and I was trying to explain to him like the whole situation, and my Jeep is inoperable. Like, you guys are a certified Jeep dealer. It's where I bought the Jeep. Uh, you know, I don't this survey thing is just ridiculous. If you they It is. Sorry, it's been so frustrating. Um, so he said that they won't work on it until I give them permission to. So I said, well, you guys have my Jeep, and so I can't get there, but can I do it on the phone with you right here? I mean, it's me." And he said, "Yeah, but," and then he would go back to, I said about 3 times, "I'm verbally giving you permission to work on my Jeep. Please work on my Jeep." And then he hung up on me. And he yelled that he'd call me back. And I never received that call. So from that point to honestly yesterday, I repeatedly kept calling for and asking to talk to the GM, asking for any manager, anything like that. I always had to leave a message for the GM with the girls at the front, and like I had to be at the least 2 to 3 times a week at the beginning. Last week, and I believe the week before, I was calling the GM about when I finally got somebody give me his work number, uh, about 2 to 3 times a day, leaving a message, saying who I was, that I would like to talk to him, see if I get assistance on this, that, what's going on. I didn't hear from nobody. Nobody had called me until yesterday when the GM called me. And he stated that the service department were refusing to was refusing to do work on my Jeep when I because of the survey. I said I understand that, but the Jeep my Jeep has been there for a month, and nobody has called me to to rectify it or whatever it needs to be done. And I guess that they told him that can't remember what I think he said that he told them, or they told him uh that I wasn't answering or something along those lines. And I said, look, I was just talking. I arranged for Jeep Care to help me out with this, the recall thing and everything like that. And I left them the case number, the caseworker, and the phone number. And he said, no, they said I called them. He said I actually talked to them, and they said that they're not going to pay for it. So basically, it was put that I wasn't doing my part to let them know or whatever. And oh, it was the email. So I'm so sorry. So the that coincidentally, I did get an email from them saying that they couldn't get a hold of anybody. Nobody was giving them any information. They wanted to know, what are we doing with this right now? So when he said that, I said, "Did you talk to anybody specifically? When did you guys call them?" And he said he said it was like a couple days ago or about a week ago. But so there's a conflicting story that and if that was the case, I don't. I mean, you the GN knew that. I mean, he stated that the entire month that I was calling and trying to reach him and leaving him messages, he knew that what was going on with the Jeep, for the saps and everything like that. But he never returned any of my calls or reached out or anything like that. Um, and then yesterday was the first time I talked. Like, yeah, yesterday was the first time I talked to him. And then shit, so sorry, so frustrated. My brain is everywhere right now. So basically, he stated that they're not going to do any work right now because they wouldn't do work because I wouldn't give them permission, or I didn't give them permission to. And I said, when I talked to your service manager, I did give him verbal permission to work on my Jeep, and he hung up on me, and I guess never did anything. And he said, well, I'm saying that you have to come in and you have to pay up front. And what? You've had my Jeep for a month. You, the GM, has never called me the entire time to even rectify the situation. I've left a lot of messages and then when I called the Chrysler customer care, she had talked to him before I called up, or before she had called me back yesterday, and she was not told anything about what was happening. All she was told was, that they wouldn't do the work because I didn't go and pay the everything like up front. And I said, why then? That doesn't make any sense with the whole situation in itself. That was from the GM. If that was the case, why would the GM not, say, hey, your Jeep's been sitting here a month. Like, what are we doing? But it was and she emailed me again this morning and with more stuff, more lies that these guys have told, uh, twisting around their words, twisting around the situation. It's where they're they're putting it all on me. I don't know why. I don't know why. Um, that's that's basically it in a nutshell. I still had no. I never got a. They still got my Jeep, by the way. I never got an apology. I never got any explanation on the mistreatment. I never got. I basically just even the GM customer care, like she was like, I can't do anything but say yes, they'll work on it. But if they deny it again, then you have to take it somewhere else. It isn't fair. It isn't like I would not the customer service, whether they're right or wrong, if they can deny it because you gave them a bad score on the survey. And I said, if it's if you're going to have people do a survey though, then you have to take both sides of it. It's either you're doing great or you need to fix some things. Then tell people if you like warn them before they fill the survey out. If you give us bad scores, we will refuse to work on your Jeep or your vehicle. Um, but at this point, the fact that they'd had it for months, the fact that I was never contacted, even after my attempts multiple times through emails, everything like that, to get a hold of, the GM, uh, hung up by the service department manager, blatantly told like because of that the survey they're refusing to work on my Jeep. So right now my biggest thing is that they made it very personal. When you wait that long and you don't offer any solution, you're like when they're the fact that they blatantly just ignored the entire time, even with me calling trying to get like stuff done. I don't know what compensation besides, I didn't have a Jeep for a month, so there's transportation that I've had to do or pay for my my monthly payment that I don't even have a car for because they kept my car. And those things add up. But at the same time, it's more like I really want the principal to be like, that is fair. You guys can't do that. Be- There is absolutely no reason that I could not, the GM shouldn't have called me immediately when he realized that this was at the beginning of when I brought it in, that there was something going on, whether good or bad. He should have jumped in a lot sooner, or answered my calls, so call me back.